Commander Vex 9 clicked his mandibles in frustration as he watched the security feeds from Detention Level 7. The humans had done it again. Another impossible, illogical, completely absurd act that defied every protocol in the Galactic Union's handbook. "Sir," his aide, Officer Click, approached with visible nervousness. "The Council demands an immediate report on the situation." Vex 9's 4 eyes rolled in perfect synchronization. "Oh, wonderful. Because explaining human behavior to the Council is exactly how I wanted to spend my cycle." He gestured toward the main screen with one of his 6 arms. "Tell me, Click, what do you see when you look at that detention cell?" Click's antennae twitched as he studied the feed. "Well, sir, I see prisoner designation Mike 77, the human captured during the border skirmish last week. Just one thing before we begin. YouTube tells me 94.3% of you watching aren't subscribed. Subscribing is free. It really supports the channel, and you'll get more amazing HFY sci-fi stories delivered straight to you. Don't miss out. And the Skor beast we captured alongside him, sir." "The same Skor beast," Vex 9 said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "That killed 12 of our finest warriors during capture? The one that took concentrated plasma fire from 3 battle cruisers before we managed to subdue it?" "Yes, sir. The very same creature that our xenobiologists classified as extremely hostile and recommended for immediate termination." Vex 9 leaned forward in his command chair, his exoskeleton creaking. "Then, please, enlighten me, Officer Click. Why is that supposedly deadly beast currently? What's the human term?" "Ah, yes, getting belly rubs." On the screen, the impossible scene continued to unfold. The human, who went by the name Jake Morrison, was seated cross-legged on the floor of the detention cell. The Skor beast, a creature that resembled a cross between a earth rhinoceros and a giant spider, complete with razor-sharp claws and enough venom to kill a small army, was lying on its back like some sort of oversized pet. Jake was gently scratching the creature's armored belly while making soft cooing sounds. The beast's 8 eyes were half closed in what could only be described as bliss, and it was making a low rumbling sound that the universal translator helpfully identified as purring. "I don't understand it either, sir," Click admitted. "According to all our data, Skor beasts are incapable of forming bonds with any species. They're apex predators, designed by evolution to kill everything they encounter." "And yet," Vex 9 muttered, "there's a human treating it like it's some sort of domesticated companion animal." The situation had started 3 days ago, right after they'd thrown both captives into the same cell. Standard procedure dictated that dangerous prisoners should be separated, but they'd been short on space, and honestly, the Council had been hoping the Skor would solve their human problem for them. Humans were complicated. Ever since first contact 6 months ago, they'd been causing headaches throughout the galaxy. They didn't follow established protocols, they asked too many questions, and they had this annoying habit of treating dangerous situations like minor inconveniences. The plan had been simple. Put the human in with the beast. Wait for the inevitable screaming and violence. Then collect whatever remained for the memorial service. Instead, they'd woken up the next morning to find Jake feeding the Skor beast his breakfast rations. "Sir," another officer approached. "Doctor, Vex from Xenobiology is requesting permission to enter the detention level. He wants to study the interaction." "Absolutely not," Vex 9 snapped. "The last thing we need is to lose our chief xenobiologist to human unpredictability." On the screen, Jake had apparently decided it was playtime. He'd found a metal food tray and was sliding it across the floor. The Skor beast, All 2 tons of armored death was chasing after it like an earth puppy, its massive claws clicking against the deck plating. "This is insane," Click whispered. "That thing could tear him apart without even trying." "Oh, it gets better," Vex9 said grimly. He pulled up the audio recordings from the previous day. "Computer, play file designation Jake Morrison, day 2:14. Jake's voice filled the command center. "There you go, big guy. I know you're just scared and confused. Nobody wants to hurt you, do they? No, they don't. You're just a misunderstood space puppy, aren't you?" The Skor beast's response was a series of clicking sounds that the translator rendered as "agreed." Companion Jake understands. Previous captors were hostile. Companion Jake provides safety and sustenance. Dead silence filled the command center. "It's talking," Click stammered. "The Skor beast is actually communicating." "Oh, it's been talking," Vex9 said wearily. "We just never bothered to listen properly. Our linguists have been working around the clock to recalibrate the translators. Turns out, Skor beasts aren't mindless killing machines. They're highly intelligent, deeply emotional creatures who've been responding to what they perceived as constant threats. But the attacks on our colonies? Self-defense," Vex9 interrupted. "According to our new friend in there, Skor beasts are actually pack animals. They form strong family units and will fight to the death to protect their young. We've been building mining operations on their nesting grounds. The implications hit the room like a plasma blast. Months of conflict, hundreds of casualties, entire fleets mobilized to fight what they thought was an invasion force of monsters, all because nobody had thought to try talking first. Well, nobody except the human." "Sir," the communications officer called out, "incoming priority message from the High Council. They're demanding an immediate execution of both prisoners." Vex9's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress. "Of course they are. Because the last thing the Council wants to admit is that they might have made a mistake." On the screen, Jake had apparently found some sort of grooming tool and was carefully cleaning between the Skor's armor plates. The beast was making happy chirping sounds and occasionally nudging Jake with its massive head. "You know what the really frustrating part is?" Vex9 said, more to himself than anyone else. 3 days. It took this human 3 days to accomplish what our entire diplomatic corps couldn't manage in 6 months of conflict. "Should I prepare the execution chamber, sir?" Click asked reluctantly. Vex9 stared at the screen for a long moment. The human was now apparently teaching the Skor beast some sort of hand game, and the creature was trying to mimic Jake's movements with its massive claws. "No," he said finally. "Schedule an emergency session with the High Council. Tell them we need to discuss new protocols for first contact situations." "Sir?" "And send a message to the human diplomatic vessel that's been requesting permission to approach our space. Tell them we're ready to talk." Click's antennae twitched in confusion. "But sir, the Council specifically ordered no contact with human vessels." "The Council," Vex9 said with a bitter laugh, "is about to learn why human behavior seems so impossible to predict. It's because they've been trying to solve problems instead of creating them." Before anyone could ask what that meant, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. The main screen flickered and switched to external sensors. 3 massive human vessels had just dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. "Sir!" the communications officer shouted over the alarms. "The lead human ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding the immediate release of their citizen, and they say they're prepared to demonstrate why humans have survived every major extinction event on their homeworld." Vex 9 felt his stress levels spike beyond anything the medical scanners could measure. How did they even find us? This facility's location is classified at the highest levels. Unknown, sir. But they're moving toward us at combat speed. On the detention cell monitor, Jake looked up toward the ceiling as if he could somehow hear the approaching ships. A slow smile spread across his face. "Hey there, Spike," he said to the Skor beast, which had apparently acquired a nickname. "Looks like my friends came looking for me. Hope you're ready to meet some more humans." The creature, Spike, made a sound that the translator rendered as excitement, anticipation. "Will additional companion Jakes be as kind?" "Oh, buddy," Jake laughed, scratching behind what might have been the creature's ears. "You have no idea." Vex 9 buried his face in his upper hands. "Officer Click, get me a direct line to the High Council, and then start drafting a resignation letter." "A resignation letter, sir?" "Because," Vex 9 said, as he watched the human fleet continue its approach, "I have a feeling that our entire understanding of interspecies relations is about to be turned upside down, and I'd rather not be in charge when it happens." The lead human vessel was now close enough for visual contact. It was sleek, heavily armed, and had what appeared to be decorative paintings on its hull. Vex 9 squinted at the images and felt his stress levels somehow find new heights to reach. The paintings appeared to show various Earth animals, puppies, kittens, and something the database identified as baby pandas. "Sir," Click said weakly, "why would a military vessel decorate itself with images of juvenile creatures?" Vex 9 didn't answer. He was too busy watching Jake give Spike what appeared to be a pep talk about meeting new friends. The Skor beast was listening intently, and occasionally making happy chirping sounds. "Commander Vex 9, the communications officer announced, "the human fleet is hailing us. The lead ship identifies itself as the UES Friendship. Their captain is requesting permission to come aboard for negotiations." "The UES Friendship," Vex 9 repeated slowly. "They named their warship the Friendship." "Yes, sir." "And they're requesting permission to come aboard." "Yes, sir." "While maintaining a combat formation that could probably level our entire facility." Vex 9 looked around the command center at his crew. Every single officer was staring at him with the same expression of barely controlled panic. "You know what?" he said finally. "Grant them permission. At this point, I'm genuinely curious to see what happens next." "Sir?" "Because either we're about to witness the most elaborate military deception in galactic history, or humans really are exactly as impossible as they seem." On the screen, Jake had apparently started singing to Spike. It was some sort of human lullaby, and the massive creature was swaying gently to the rhythm. The first human shuttle launched from the UES Friendship, its trajectory heading directly for their main docking bay. Vex 9 settled back in his command chair and tried to remember if his life insurance was up to date. "Sir," Click said quietly, "what if the humans are actually right about all of this?" "Then," Vex 9 replied, watching the shuttle approach, "we're about to find out why they're the most successful species in their galactic neighborhood." The shuttle touched down with barely a whisper, and Vex 9 could see figures moving inside the docking bay through the security feeds. Human figures, moving with purpose and confidence, completely unafraid of walking into what was essentially an enemy military installation. "Commander," the docking bay supervisor's voice crackled through the comm, "the humans are." "Sir, they brought gifts." "Gifts?" "Food, sir. Some sort of baked goods and what appears to be coffee. They're asking if we'd like to share refreshments while we talk." Vex 9's mandibles stopped clicking. For the first time in days, he was completely speechless. In the detention cell. Jake looked up at the nearest security camera and waved. "Don't worry, guys," he said cheerfully. "Captain Torres is really nice once you get to know her. Just don't mention the incident with the space pirates unless you want to hear the whole story." Spike made an inquisitive sound. "Oh, you want to know about the space pirates?" Jake grinned. "Well, it's a funny story, actually. See, they thought they could intimidate humans by threatening to feed us to their pet monsters. Vex 9 turned off the audio feed. He had a feeling he was going to need all of his concentration for whatever was about to happen next." Captain Elena Torres walked through the corridors of the alien facility with the confidence of someone who had seen far worse things than nervous extraterrestrials pointing weapons at her. Behind her, Lieutenant Sam Brooks carried a thermal container of fresh-baked cookies, while Sergeant Maria Santos held what appeared to be a professional-grade coffee brewing system. "Ma'am," Brooks whispered, "are you sure about the refreshment strategy?" These aliens look ready to bolt. Torres glanced at the Vorthak guards lining the hallway, their weapons trembling in their multi-jointed hands. "Trust me, Sam. Food diplomacy has never failed us yet." "What about the Rigelian incident?" "That wasn't a failure. We just learned that tentacle beings consider chocolate offensive to their digestive religion." Commander Vex 9 waited in what he optimistically called a conference room, though it looked more like an interrogation chamber with slightly better lighting. His aide, Officer Click, stood beside him, both of them radiating the kind of nervous energy typically reserved for creatures about to become someone else's lunch. "Commander Vex 9, I presume?" Torres extended her hand as she entered. "Captain Elena Torres, United Earth Space Command. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Vex 9 stared at the offered hand for several seconds before cautiously extending one of his own appendages. The handshake was brief, professional, and completely failed to result in anyone's immediate death. "Captain Torres," he managed, "I must say, your arrival was unexpected." "Oh, Jake's tracker signal has been broadcasting his location for days," Torres said casually, settling into a chair that wasn't designed for human anatomy, but would have to do. "We've been monitoring the situation since you captured him." "Tracker signal?" "Standard issue for all diplomatic personnel. Jake volunteered for this mission, you know. He specifically requested assignment to any situation involving misunderstood alien creatures." Click's antennae twitched violently. "He volunteered to be captured?" "Well, not exactly captured," Torres corrected. "More like inserted for observation and potential first contact protocols. Jake has a gift for connecting with non-human species. Vex 9 felt something that might have been a migraine developing in his cranial cavity." "Are you telling me that your government deliberately allowed one of your citizens to be taken prisoner?" "Oh, heavens, no!" Torres laughed. "Our government would have sent a full battle fleet and demanded immediate surrender. This was entirely Jake's idea. He saw the reports about the Skor conflicts and convinced his superiors that someone needed to actually try talking to them." She gestured for Santos to begin setting up the coffee system. "He made quite a compelling argument, actually. Something about how humans spent thousands of years thinking wolves were monsters until we figured out they just wanted belly rubs and regular meals. Wolves? Predatory pack animals from our homeworld. They're basically the ancestors of our most popular companion species now. We call them dogs." The coffee machine began making pleasant gurgling sounds, filling the room with an aroma that made several of the Vorthak guards unconsciously lean closer. "Commander," Torres continued, "may I ask what your protocols are for dealing with hostile alien species?" "Standard containment and elimination procedures," Vex 9 replied automatically. If a species demonstrates aggressive behavior toward Union citizens, we classify them as a threat and respond accordingly. And who determines what constitutes aggressive behavior? Vex 9 paused. It was a question that had never occurred to him before. Well, our military analysts review the data and make recommendations based on established threat assessment matrices. I see. And do these analysts typically speak the languages of the species they're evaluating? That's not usually necessary for threat assessment. Torres accepted a cup of coffee from Santos and inhaled the steam appreciatively. Commander, would you mind if I told you about something that happened on Earth about 200 years ago? I suppose not. There was a large predatory animal called a grizzly bear. Massive creatures, over 8 feet tall, armed with claws that could tear through metal, incredibly strong, and absolutely terrifying when provoked. Brooks had begun distributing cookies to anyone who looked interested, which turned out to be everyone in the room. Our ancestors classified them as dangerous monsters and spent decades hunting them nearly to extinction. But then, something interesting happened. A few researchers decided to actually study their behavior instead of just trying to kill them. And? Turns out, grizzly bears are mostly gentle giants who eat berries and fish. They only attack when they feel threatened or when protecting their cubs. Once we stopped shooting at them on sight, conflicts dropped by over 90%. Torres sipped her coffee and let that sink in. The Skor beasts remind me a lot of grizzly bears. On the security monitor, Jake was apparently giving Spike a detailed explanation of human music while demonstrating something called air guitar. The massive creature was watching with fascination and trying to mimic the movements with its claws. Captain Torres, Vex 9 said slowly, are you suggesting that our entire approach to the Skor situation has been fundamentally flawed? I'm not suggesting anything, Commander. I'm telling you that Jake has spent 3 days learning more about Skor culture and communication than your entire military has discovered in months of conflict. Click cleared his throat nervously. What exactly has he learned? Torres nodded to Brooks, who pulled out a data pad. According to Jake's reports, Skor beasts are highly intelligent, emotionally complex creatures who live in extended family groups. They're primarily herbivorous, despite their fearsome appearance, and they only become aggressive when defending their territory or young. Herbivorous, Vex 9's voice cracked. But our reports indicated they were apex predators. Your reports were based on encounters where armed soldiers were shooting at them, Torres pointed out. Humans would probably seem like vicious predators too, if the only data you had was from active combat situations. Santos had connected the security feed to her portable screen and was watching Jake's interaction with Spike. Ma'am, looks like Jake's teaching it to play patty cake. Everyone turned to watch the monitor. Sure enough, Jake was clapping his hands in a rhythm while Spike attempted to match the pattern with its massive claws. Both of them appeared to be having enormous fun. That's another thing, Torres continued. Skor beasts are naturally playful. They engage in complex social games, they enjoy music, and they form strong emotional bonds with individuals they trust. This is impossible, Vex 9 muttered. If they're peaceful creatures, why did they attack our mining operations? Commander, where exactly were these mining operations located? Various asteroid fields and uninhabited planet surfaces in the outer systems. Torres exchanged a look with her team. Uninhabited, according to whom? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Vex 9 felt his stress levels reaching new and previously undiscovered heights. You're saying those were Skor territories? Jake seems to think so. According to Spike, those asteroid fields are traditional nesting sites. Skor families return to the same locations every breeding cycle to raise their young. The room fell silent except for the gentle sounds of coffee brewing and cookie consumption. "Oh," Click whispered. "Oh, no." "The good news," Torres said brightly, "is that this is completely fixable. Skor beasts are apparently very forgiving once they understand that the conflicts were based on misunderstandings." "How could you possibly know that?" "Because Jake asked Spike directly. Turns out, they've been trying to establish communication for months. They just didn't know how to reach us without seeming threatening." As if summoned by the conversation, the detention cell monitor showed Jake looking directly at the security camera. "Hey everyone," he said cheerfully. "Hope the meeting's going well up there. Spike wants to know if he can meet the rest of the crew. He's really excited about making new friends." Spike made a series of musical clicking sounds that the newly calibrated translator rendered as curiosity, anticipation, hope that additional humans possess companion Jake's wisdom and kindness. Torres stood up. "Commander, I'd like to formally request permission to bring Jake and his new friend to these negotiations." "Absolutely not," Vex-9 said immediately. "That creature is still classified as extremely dangerous." "To whom?" To everyone." "Based on what evidence?" "Commander, that extremely dangerous creature has spent 3 days in close contact with a human and hasn't so much as scratched him. Meanwhile, Jake has taught it to play games, appreciate music, and apparently developed a sophisticated communication system." Santos looked up from her monitoring equipment. "Ma'am, I'm reading elevated stress levels from Commander Vex-9. Maybe we should dial back the pressure a bit." "You can read my stress levels?" Vex-9 asked weakly. "Standard diplomatic equipment," Torres explained. "We've found that monitoring emotional states helps prevent misunderstandings during negotiations." "What else can your equipment do?" "Oh, all sorts of things. We can translate micro-expressions, analyze vocal stress patterns, detect chemical changes that indicate deception or fear. Very handy for avoiding conflicts." Vex-9 looked around the room at his own people, all of whom were now staring at the humans with a mixture of awe and terror. "Captain Torres, exactly how advanced is human technology?" "Advanced enough," she said, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "But we prefer to use it for making friends, rather than winning fights." Brooks finished distributing the last of the cookies and returned to his seat. "Ma'am, should I prepare the presentation on Project Harmony?" "What's Project Harmony?" Click asked. Torres's smile became genuine. "It's our initiative for establishing peaceful contact with previously hostile alien species. We've had remarkable success so far." "How remarkable?" "Well, the Xanthorian Empire went from shooting at us on sight to hosting joint cultural festivals in under 6 months. The Arcturus Trade Federation now considers us their primary diplomatic partners, and the Void Hunters have actually requested human mediators for their territorial disputes." Vex-9 felt his worldview cracking around the edges. The Void Hunters requested mediation? The same Void Hunters who've been at war with everyone for the past 50 years? Turns out they were just really bad at expressing their needs diplomatically. Once we figured out their communication preferences and helped them establish proper channels, the conflicts basically resolved themselves. This is insane. "This is Tuesday," Torres corrected. "Commander, I'm going to make you an offer. Let us bring Jake and Spike up here for a proper introduction. Give us 1 hour to demonstrate what we've learned about human-Skor cooperation. If it doesn't work, if there are any problems whatsoever, we'll accept full responsibility and withdraw from the system. And if it does work, Then we help you establish formal diplomatic relations with the Skor Collective. We provide assistance in relocating your mining operations to mutually acceptable locations. And everyone goes home happy. Vex 9 looked at the security monitor, where Jake was now teaching Spike some sort of human dance move. The massive creature was surprisingly graceful for something with 8 legs. What exactly do humans get out of this arrangement? Torres's expression became serious for the first time since she'd arrived. Peace, Commander. We get peace. Humans have seen what happens when intelligent species fight instead of talk. We've been there, done that, and frankly, we're tired of cleaning up the mess afterward. You're serious about this? Deadly serious. War is expensive, traumatic, and generally stupid. Friendship is cheap, enjoyable, and tends to result in better outcomes for everyone involved. Santos had been monitoring communications throughout the meeting. Ma'am, we're getting reports from the other ships. The Skor vessels that have been shadowing us are requesting permission to approach. Skor vessels? Vex 9 nearly fell out of his chair. Oh, yes, Torres said casually. Did I forget to mention? Spike's family has been following our fleet. They wanted to make sure their missing member was safe. How many ships? Just a small family group, maybe 30 or 40 vessels. 30 or 40? They travel in extended family units. Spike is apparently quite popular with his relatives. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility as the Skor fleet decloaked at the edge of the system. The main screen showed sleek, organic-looking ships that seemed to pulse with their own internal light. Commander, the communications officer shouted. The Skor ships are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. They're requesting permission to dock. They want to dock? Torres nodded toward the security monitor. Jake had apparently heard the alarms and was explaining the situation to Spike, who was making excited chirping sounds. Spike says his family has been worried sick, Torres translated. They're probably bringing gifts and wanting to meet the humans who've been taking such good care of their relative. Vex 9 stared at the approaching Skor fleet, then at the humans calmly sipping coffee in his conference room, then at the security monitor showing a human giving belly rubs to a creature that had been classified as a deadly monster just hours ago. Captain Torres, he said finally, I think I'm beginning to understand why humans are considered so unpredictable. Oh, you don't solve problems the way everyone else does. You make friends with them instead. Torres raised her coffee cup in a mock toast. Commander, you're finally starting to get it. On the monitor, Jake looked up at the camera one more time. Hey guys, Spike's family is here. Should we plan a welcome party? I think they'd really enjoy those cookies Lieutenant Brooks brought. Spike made a sound that the translator enthusiastically rendered as, Joy! Celebration! Family pack approaches to meet companion Jake and new human friends. Vex 9 buried his face in his hands. Officer Click, cancel that resignation letter. Sir? Because, he said, watching the Skor ships move into docking formation with the careful precision of a species that had been practicing peaceful contact for generations, I have a feeling that our approach to interstellar relations is about to change dramatically. Torres stood and extended her hand again. Commander, welcome to the galactic community. The real one, where everyone gets along and shares snacks. As they shook hands, Vex 9 realized that the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their technology, their military capabilities, or their unpredictable behavior. It was their absolute unshakable belief that everyone could be friends if you just tried hard enough. And the terrifying part was, they seemed to be right.